Good Tavach, everyone. We're coming now from Achron Shel Pesach, Chaf Beis Nisan, which today's daf was daf Zion. So we're going to learn together now daf Zion of Masechah Sotah. We are on daf Zion, Amud Aleph, the second line from the top by the Mishnah. Okay. So we're in the middle of discussing the process of the Sotah. A man warns his wife not to seclude herself with so-and-so. And she goes and secludes herself with that guy. And we have Edom for both events. So what happens is the husband has to bring his wife to the Beis Hamikdash to drink the waters. But before he does that, Mas Nissen says the Mishnah, what does he do? The first thing he does, he brings her to a Beis Din in their city, in that place. And then they decide that Beis Din has to convene and see if she is Taka Sotah. And if they rule that she has the din of a Sotah Safek, they give over to him two Talmidei Chachamim, two Torah scholars, Shema Yaveh Elav Aderech, to walk together with him to Yerushalayim, or to go in a wagon, however whatever the form of travel was, however far it was, they would go together with him to Yerushalayim in order to make sure that the man would not have a relation with his wife on the way. It would always be with the husband and wife to make sure that they didn't have a relation together. And the problem would be that if they would have a relation with each other, then the waters wouldn't work, right? We said the Torah says in Parshas Nasa that the man is not allowed to be with his wife when she's a Sotah. And then after the whole Parsha of the Sotah, it says that the man is going to be absolved from sin, that the waters only work if the man is absolved from sin in this regard. And if he's going to be intimate with his wife, then he's not going to be absolved from sin and the water won't work. So they give two Talmidei Chachamim to this guy to accompany him to Yerushalayim to make sure that they don't have a relation with each other. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, by law, her husband is believed, is trustworthy in this matter, and we don't need to give Talmidei Chachamim to them in order to make sure that they don't have a relation with each other. We trust the husband and wife that they won't have a relation with each other on the way to Yerushalayim. Gemara. Okay, that's the Mishnah. Now the Gemara says, the Mishnah said that you need to give them two Talmidei Chachamim. That's two Talmidei Chachamim plus the guy. So you have a total of 3 men and 1 woman. So maybe we could use this Mishnah as a proof for Rav. Says in Maseches Kiddushin, Daf Pei Aleph, Amar Rav Hilda Marav, Rav Hilda said in the name of Rav, that when do we say that having one man and another man, basically there's the Isser of Yichud. There's discussion whether it's Isser Midairaisa or Isser Midrabanan, but the point is discussed in the end of Maseches Kiddushin over there, Daf Pei, the last Mishnah in Kiddushin discusses the halachas of Yichud, that a man and a woman that aren't married to each other are not allowed to seclude themselves in one room together. And there's different levels. Maybe a man and someone who he wouldn't be allowed to marry is midairaisa, and just a man together with a pnuya, with a woman that he's not married to, is midrabanan. But whatever the case is, and then there's a man secluding himself with a non-Jewish woman. There's all these different prohibitions which come from different sources. But the point is there's an Isra of Yichud. And we said that to have 2 men and 1 woman, that's allowed. You're allowed to have 1 man and 2 women together. And Rav said on that we only say that you could have 2 men secluding themselves with 1 woman. That's only in a city. But when it comes to when they're traveling on the road, you need to have 3 men and 1 woman. You can't have 2 men and 1 woman. That still falls under the Isser of Yichud. You need to have 3 men. Why? Because maybe one of the men is going to need to go to the bathroom. And if you only have 2 men, then but then one of them, there's going to be that one left who's still with the woman, and they're going to be together. They're going to have yichud, right? And what's the problem? What's the difference if it's the road or if it's in the city? If it's in the city, it's enough to have only 2 men, because if one of them needs to go to the bathroom in the city, it was much more common to have bathrooms around, to have places where one can relieve himself. So a man would be able to find it easily and come right back. So when the man and woman are secluded together, they know that the other guy is going to come back quickly. So they're not going to get involved in anything inappropriate, because they know that this guy could come back any second. However, on the road, it was very common in the olden days that you would need or even these days, really, it's common that you need to travel a long distance until you could find a place to relieve oneself. So if you only have 2 people, then when one of the guys is going to go to the bathroom, the man and the woman are going to be secluded with each other, and they're not going to be scared that the guy's about to come back. So they could get down to something inappropriate. So maybe, and that's what Rav said. So maybe we could use our Mishnah as a proof, because our Mishnah said that you need to give the guy 2 Talmidei Chachamim. So maybe the reason why you need to give 2 Talmidei Chachamim, the reason why you need to have 2 of these Torah scholars together with him, is because since they're traveling to Yerushalayim, you can't have 1 woman secluding herself with 2 men. right? Because why would it be? Why isn't it enough that you have one guy that could make sure that they're not together with each other, that they're not intimate with each other? Why do you have two guys? Obviously, it's a proof for Rav. So says the Gemara, it's not a proof for Rav, not necessarily, because because maybe there's a different reason why you need to have two Talmidei Chacham. So that they can be witnesses that their main job is to make sure that the man and woman aren't intimate with each other. But if they are, if you have two other guys besides for the husband and wife, they could be witnesses in Yerushalayim that the husband and wife were intimate and that they do not have the halacha of the Sotah we're saying. Okay. Good. So that's the reason why you have two Talmidei Chachamim, so that they could witness to the intimacy if it were to happen, and they could testify, because testimony is only kosher if you have two kosher witnesses. Good. Then continues the Gemara that the Mishnah said Talmidei Chachamim, that it has to be Torah scholars. So it could be Talmidei Chachamim. Kulei al maloi, but it can't be regular people. It has to be dafka people that understand that know Torah. So then we say the idach Rav. Maybe this Mishnah helps out a different thing that Rav said. The Amar Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav. Also on that same page in Kiddushin, also in the din of Yichud, that when can you have more than one, right? One man and one woman, even if they're both kosher, religious Jews that are trusted to keep all the halachos, they're not allowed to be together in one room. However, if you have more than that, so if they're ksherim, if they're kosher people, either more women or more men, if they're kosher people, if they're trustworthy people that are appropriate, that they're modest people, so then they could seclude themselves if it's two men and one woman in the city, and if it's in the road, it has to be three. But whatever the case is, they have to be kosher. However, if they're prutzin, if they're all immoral people, if they're immodest people, so afilu asara namilo, that even 10 men can't seclude themselves with one woman, because once they're immodest, there's no limit, right? However, if they're all immodest, no matter how many men it is, they can't seclude themselves with one woman. And as a proof for that, Ma'aseh Hoya, there was once a story that that there was 10 of these immoral, immodest guys that they took out a woman from a city in a coffin, right? As if they were making a funeral for her. They took her out of the city and they acted immodestly with her. And that just goes to show you that even if it's 10 people, right, they still can't be trusted with one woman. So maybe our Mishnah that they have to be Talmidei Chachamim, that they have to be Torah scholars, is a proof for Rav that they have to be ksherim, and that they have to be kosher people. So says the Gemara, not necessarily. Why do they have to be Talmidei Chachamim in this case? Because they have to be able to warn the woman that she should not seclude herself, that she should not have a relation. They have to warn the husband and wife that they can't have a relation with each other. And the only people that would know that are Torah scholars, people that know the halachas. Okay. Continues the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda Eimer Ba'ila v'chulu, quoting the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. That Rabbi Yehuda says that you don't need to give two Torah scholars because the husband is believed to, he's trusted that he's not going to have a relation with his wife on the way to the base of Mikdash. So Tanya, we learned in a Brisa that Rabbi Yehuda says that by Lenemon, that why do we believe the husband, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that they're not going to have a relation on the way to the base of Mikdash? Mikal v'chomer, we have a kal v'chomer, a fortiori. Uma nida, the isra of nida, she bekores by Lenemon aleh, when a woman is menstruant. And when the 7 day period, if she was bleeding then before she goes to the mikvah, the husband and wife being together is isur kares, which is a sort of a death penalty from heaven. And that the isur of nida carries the kares penalty. And by the we believe the husband. We don't say that two Talmidei Chachamim have to move into their house in order to make sure that they're not together. We believe the husband that he's not going to be with his wife. So Sotah, she believed that she is a much lower level of Isser. She's only a lav. She's only an Avera. There's no punishment for the Isser of Sotah. Like all she came, so for sure we should believe the husband. By Nida, she's believed the husband's believed. So for sure by Sotah, he should be believed. And Rabbanan. So why do the Rabbanan say that no, we don't accept this Kal V'Chomer and they still need two Talmidei Chachamim? That Hiyanei Senes, no, this itself that you brought, this Kal V'Chomer itself that you brought, is what proves our opinion that you need to have two Talmidei Chachamim. That Nida the Kares Chamiram. Since Nida carries this penalty of Kares, this death penalty, so Chamirale, the husband, realizes that it's more stringent, so therefore we believe him that he's not going to be with his wife. We trust him. Umehemman, and he's trusted. Sotah, however, the lav, the Isser of Sotah, which is only a lav, there's no punishment. Chamirale, he doesn't find it stringent, and therefore V'lei Mehemman, he's not trusted, and therefore you need to give him two Talmidei Chachamim to make sure that he's not going to have a relation with his wife on the way. Rabbi Yehuda. So now the Gemara asks. So that's the Brisa. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan. that do we believe that this kal v'chomer of that by nido we believe the husband, right? And that's kores. So if we believe him by iser kores, we should for sure believe him by an iser lav. And the Rabbanan say no, farkar. Since we believe him by an iser kores, why do we believe him by an iser kores? Because it's a very stringent iser. By iser lav, it's not that stringent. We don't believe the husband. Okay. Then asks the Gemara of Rabbi Yehuda Mikal v'chemer ma'isilav, Rabbi Yehuda mikroi ma'isilav. Does Rabbi Yehuda really bring this kal v'chemer? This brisa is authentic that Rabbi Yehuda learned it out of a kal v'chemer. We know that from a different brisa that Rabbi Yehuda learned it out of a pasuk. The Tanya, like we learned in a brisa, that v'hevio ishes ishtei alakoya. In a brisa, a lot of times the brisas are darshan psukim. The brisas that we have in the Gemara, the majority of them come from the yeshivas of Rabbi Ishia and Bar Kapara. One of those two. They were the most chashuv brisas. They were written after the Mishnayos. The Mishnayos is just short, right? Are just short versions of halachas from Rabbi's Beis Medrash that he learned from his teacher Rabbi Meir, who learned from his teacher Rabbi Akiva. So the Mishnayos are mainly follow the thought process of Rabbi Akiva through Rabbi Meir through Rabbi, and they're very short. You wanted people to remember it. You didn't want it to get lost. Like the Brises, by the way, which were much longer, they were elaborating more than the Mishnayos. We did lose a lot of the Brises. For that reason. So Rebbe was very smart that he did that. But the brises generally come from the yeshivas of Bar Kapara or Rabbi Shia. There were also other brises that were less significant. But whatever the case is, they're just expounding more on the Mishnah. And a lot of the brises are structured in a way that they're darshaning a pasuk, that they're learning the Chumash, and they take every pasuk and they say whatever the Chacham have to say about it. That's why the Sifra, the Sifri, the Mechilta, these are midrashay halacha. That they're sort of a medrash on the pasuk, but they're learning halachas. The Tanoim are learning Chumash with their base medrash, and they teach them, the braysos together with the Chumash. So the Tanya we learned in a braysa on this pasuk in Bamidbar in the pasukim of Sotah, that the man has to bring his wife to the kohen when she becomes the Sotah. So min Torah, from the Torah, the man brings his wife. The Torah says clearly the man should bring his wife. The Torah doesn't say they have to bring two Talmidei Chachamim. However, the Chachamim said that you need to give him two Talmidei Chachamim to make sure that they don't have a relation on the way. Rabbi Yossi says, Rabbi Yossi says her husband is believed. You don't need two Talmidei Chachamim, and he brings a kal v'chemer, the same kal v'chemer that we brought a second ago. Omani does she bekores? Then he does with kores. We believe the husband. Sotah she belav Sotah, which is a lower prohibition, which is just a lav like all. She can for sure we should believe the husband. So the Chachamim said back to Rabbi Yossi. No, you can't compare. Why? Because by nida, the man knows that she's a nida now. She's on her period now. After this week is over, she's going to go to the mikvah and she'll be permitted to me again. Right? There's yesh laheter. She has this permission after that they're able to be together. However, Sotah, which is a suffix, we don't know whether the man. Whether the woman is going to be innocent or guilty, and we don't know if she's going to survive this whole ordeal. So maybe she'ain laheter, maybe I'll never be able to be together with this woman again. So and it says in the pasuk in Mishlei that ma'im ginuvim yim taku, that stolen waters are sweeter of the gomer, which means that when something's more scandalous, we have this tendency that we're attracted to this more scandalous thing. So this woman who's a Sotah, that maybe he'll never be able to be together with her again, even though he's usher to be with her now. So a man is going to be more drawn to be with her than his wife, who's a nida, who in a week he'll be able to be together. Okay, so that's Rabbi Yossi's opinion, and the Chacham's rebuttal. So Rabbi Yehuda says, no, from the Torah, midairaisa, the man brings his wife to the kohen alone. Never, like it says in the pasuk, that the man brings his wife. Right, so that was the shaila. But right, our question was Rabbi Yehuda brought a kal v'chemer. The first brisa said that Rabbi Yehuda brings this kal v'chemer, the same one that Rabbi Yossi brought. But now we have this brisa that he says that it's a pasuk midairaisa. He doesn't bring this kal v'chemer. So they said that kal v'chemer bereisha. He first said the kal v'chemer. He first brought his kal v'chemer opinion. He said he proved that the Sotah goes alone from the kal v'chemer, alone with her husband. Then they slugged him up with these two. We had actually two ways that we slugged it up. The first brisa slugged it up in the sense that we said that farker, that kores is more chamor, therefore we believe him, but by alav it's less chamor, so we don't believe him. And the second brisa we slugged up the kal v'chemer by saying that by nida she yesh laheter, she's going to be permitted to him after she becomes tar. Mashen kein Sotah, which possibly she'll never become she won't survive the ordeal, so therefore we don't believe. We don't trust it. But so Rabbi Yehuda said the kal v'chemer and he was upshlugged, he was refuted. So V'hadar Amar Levukra. So then he brought it from a pasuk. He brought his opinion from a pasuk. So now Rabbi Yehuda Hainu Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda is the same opinion as the Tanakama. The Tanakama, the beginning of the second brisa started behavior Isha Sishtei Lakoyin Min HaTorah Ish Bevi Sishtei Lakoyin. Right, that Min HaTorah, the man brings his wife to the kohen. What's the difference between that opinion and Rabbi Yehuda and the end of the brisa, which literally said word for word? So says the Gemara, Ika Beinayu Avol Amru. The first opinion, you have to read the brisa. You have to know where to put the commas and the periods. The Tanakama, the first Tana of the brisa, the second brisa, is of the opinion that Min HaTorah, the man should bring his wife to the kohen. However, the Chachamim enacted that you have to give two Talmidei Chachamim. According to the Tanakama, you have this enactment of the Chachamim that you need to have two Talmidei Chachamim together with the husband. Rabbi Yehuda does not hold of this enactment. Okay, good. Next Mishnah, Masnisin. They come to the Beis Hamikdash and Hayomayla, so the Bezdin Agadol B'Yishalayim, they would bring her to the Bezdin Agadol in Yerushalayim, to the great Bezdin of 71 guys in Yerushalayim. And in the Beis Hamikdash, and they would scare her, they would intimidate her. It's the same way that we intimidate witnesses in capital cases. And the judges say to this woman, Biti, my daughter, Harbe yayin oisa, wine does much. Harbe schleik oisa, frivolousness does much. Harbe yaldus oisa, childishness does a lot. Harbe shnei noraim oisim, bad neighbors do much. And meaning that they're saying, we understand how you came to this predicament that you could have cheated on your husband because you could be that you got carried away with too much wine, with too much frivolousness, with childishness, immaturity, or with bad neighbors. However, you do what's right now. I see the man Shmei Agadol do. I see the Shmei Agadol do in for the sake of his holy name, of the Eibishter's great name. Shenichtav B'Kedusha, that's written in holiness. Shelo Yimach Alamayim, that it shouldn't be erased in the waters. Meaning that if you admit right now that you were guilty, we will veto this whole process and we won't have to erase the Eibishter's name. So if you're talking guilty, please admit it. And then then the judges say to her words that she is not deserving, not her and not her entire father's house are not deserving of hearing. Not her because she acted inappropriately, even if she's innocent. She still acted inappropriately. Her husband said, I don't want you to be secluding yourself with this guy. And she still secluded herself for enough amount of time. And, in this public setting where there was two Adam that were even able to see it. So she did act inappropriately. And they say that she's not deserving to hear these words because they're going to be great words that we're going to learn on the next Talmud. And her entire father's house, because if a woman is acting inappropriately, she got it from, right? We say in the end of Sukkah that whatever a kid says in the street, he got it really in the family's house. And then Imam Ratmeani, so if after all this she says, I was impure, I was defiled, I taka cheated on my husband, so Sheveres Ksubasa, she gives a receipt to her husband for a ksuba, that her husband does not owe her the ksuba money. Why? Because if she is a Sotah and if the whole reason for ksuba is that the husband shouldn't just divorce his wife, so he has to think twice before, so he has to give her money when they get divorced. In this case, where the Torah says that they should get divorced because it's the wife's fault that they're getting divorced because she cheated on her husband, so she doesn't get the ksuba money, she has to give a receipt to her husband that she doesn't get the ksuba money. The Yotzes, and she gets divorced. However, if she says, no, I'm pure, she does not admit that she was guilty. So they bring her to the eastern gate of the Beis Hamikdash, Shal Pesach Shar Nikanor, that eastern gate is opposite the Shar Nikanor, the gates of the Azara. That in Shar Nikanor was the gate to basically the Beis Hamikdash could be split into two parts. If you look from a bird's eye view. You have the Ezras Nashim on the eastern side, and then the western side you have the Ezras Kohen and the Ezras Yisrael, the Heichel, the holiest of holies. Now, the split in between those two was the Shar Nikanor. Leading up to the Shar Nikanor was 15 steps, right, where the Levium would sing the Shir HaMalos on Sukkot by Simchas Beis Sheva, and in that space of that door between the Ezras Nashim and the Ezras Yisrael is where women weren't allowed to go past that door. Men were able to go another 11 amas after that door, but women had to stay behind that door. So over there is where they would mashkenas hasoitos. They would give the Sotah. They would do the Sotah procedure over there. Matarenes hayoldos, women that gave birth, they would have their purification process as described in the Torah in Parshas Tazria, also over there because women had to stay there. Matarenes mitzayra, and also mitzayra, someone who has tsaras, who has leprosy, is not allowed to go past that door. So they would do their purification process as described in Parshas Mitzayra over there by that door. And so they would bring the Sotah over there. Kohen would hold on to her clothing. And nikru, if they ripped, they ripped. If they shred, they shred. He wasn't careful to make sure that he didn't rip her clothes. Achu Magala Sliba, and he would tear until he uncovered the place of her heart, until he would reveal the place of her heart. Besoiser Asaira, he would unbraid her hair, he would make it, messy. Rabbi Yehuda said that if her chest looked very nice, he would not reveal it, he wouldn't rip. Right, and we're going to see later because of tznius purposes. And if her hair was very nice, he wouldn't unbraid it. And now, if she was wearing white clothing, so she gets covered in black clothing. If she had golden jewelry on her, turning Talmud Beis, v'katliyos, or chokers, nizamim v'tabois, or nose rings, or rings, they take it off of her. And all these things, ripping her clothing, and all these things, they do it in order to embarrass her, to degrade her. And afterwards, and this whole process really is all to try to get her to admit that she was guilty, because if she's guilty, it saves her life, and we don't have to erase Hashem's name. After all this, maybe Chevel Mitzri, they would bring a Chevel Mitzri, says Rashi, it's Asum Mitzurei Dekel Misiv, a Godel Sviv Adekel, the Koruch Halav. We learned Siv Chevra in Psachim. That Siv is this palm net that grows around the palm trees, and it's used to make baskets, but they would make a rope tied out of Chevel, made out of Chevel Mitzri, out of this Siv. The Koshrei L'mayla Midada, they would tie it above her breast. The Kolareita Lirois, and anyone who wants to. And by the way, I just want to mention we're coming out of Pesach now. We're coming right out of Mashiach Sotah. Chevel Mitzri. So Chevel Mitzri means from the sieve, from the palm tree. But there are some Mefarshim that explain that Chevel Mitzri means a certain Egyptian kind of rope. Mitzri comes from the word Egyptians, and this is the whole part of Mitzrayim, that it's a rope that they tie around her. Right, that Mitzrayim is the Mitzarim is all the boundaries that we need to get rid of. And we're we're coming out of Pesach, hopefully having shed all those boundaries behind. Left it for the past, and so that's just a word to connect it to Pesach that we're coming from right now. Okay, and anyone who wants to watch this process, Baliris can come and watch. However, the only people that aren't able to watch the Sotah process is Me'avada, her slaves and her maidservants. Why? Because she feels haughty, in their presence, meaning they're her property. They belong to her, and she's their boss, so she feels like a boss when they're around. And we want to try to push her down so that she could admit. And if the slaves and maidservants are there, she's going to feel this sense of stuck upness and she's not going to want to admit that she was guilty. And any woman that's there is allowed to watch her to watch this process. Right? The Gemara is going to ask later. You just said that anyone's allowed to watch, so what's the chiddush that women are allowed to watch also? You just said that anyone could. Shnemar, and like it says in the pasuk in Yecheskel, that v'nivasru kol anashim, all the women will take this rebuke. V'loi ta'asena kizimaschana, and they will not act in the same promiscuous way as thou. Right? That when they watch this woman, this Sotah process of how she's getting degraded, they'll make sure that they won't act in a promiscuous fashion. Okay. Gemara. That's the Mishnah. Now, says the Gemara, Menani Mili, how do we know that you need to bring the Sotah to the Bezdin HaGadol, to the big Beis Din in Yerushalayim? We know that it needs to be in Yerushalayim. Why? Because you need to bring her to the Kohen and the Beis HaMikdash and the Mishkan, right? The Torah says that clearly. But where do we see that it has to be in the big Beis Din? Maybe the Beis Din in her city could rule it, and then they go to the Yerushalayim. How do you know that it has to be the Beis Din, the big Beis Din, the Beis Din HaGadol? So Amr Rabbi Chia bar Gamda, Amr Rabbi Yossi bar Rab Chanina, Chia, the son of Gamda, said in the name of Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rab Chanina, that Asya Torah, we have Exer Shava, the word Torah to the word Torah. Ksiv Hacha, it says by the parsha of Sotah of Asala Kohen Eiskala Torah, that the Kohen should do to her this whole Torah, this whole law, this whole instruction. Ksiv Hasam, and it says in another pasuk in Parshas Shoftim about the halacha of a Sakin Mamre, about a man that comes out against the Bezdin HaGadol and paskins opposite from what the Bezdin HaGadol says, that that he has the death penalty over there. So it says Al Pi Torah Yerucha, that according to the Torah, according to the law, that they will instruct you. And that's talking about the Bezdin HaGadol, the big Bezdin of 71. That just like in Parshas Shoftim, the halacha of the Zaken Mamre applies in the case of the 71 judges. So Afkan, so to here by Sotah b'shivim ve'echad, the word Torah teaches you that it has to be a 71 judge Bezdin. Okay. The Mishnah continued that we intimidate her to try to get her to admit. Minu, we have a stira from a Tosefta. The Tosefta was put together by Oishia or Bar Kapara. Right? I think there's a little bit of a difference of opinion over there. But it was put together by by Rabbi Yeshia, who lived in the same time as Rabbi. He was a student of Rabbi. There's conflicting sources whether he passed away before Rabbi or after Rabbi. The point is, he wrote the Tosefta, which is just a longer version of the Mishnayos. It's more explanatory, right? And he basically he was from the yeshiva of Rabbi, so he used to learn from Rabbi, and he would try to remember all of his shiurim, and he would explain, the inyanim. But however, when the Tosefta argues with Mishnayos, we always follow the Mishnayos. The halacha is like the Mishnayos. The Jewish nation accepted the Mishnayos more than the Tosefta. Okay, so we have a stare from a Tosefta. The Tosefta says like the same way that we intimidate her not to drink, so too we intimidate her that she should drink. And what do we say? The Tosefta says that the Bezdin says to her that Biti, my daughter, if you know for sure that you are tar, that you're pure, that you did not cheat on your husband. So imdi al stand your ground, don't give in. Ushsi, and drink the water. Why? That what do we compare the bitter waters, the Sotah waters to this to dry medicine that's placed on your skin? The that if you have a wound on your skin, then mechalchel the remedy goes down into the wound and it heals it. However, in shamaka, if there's no wound, so in a moil nothing happens there, right? The remedy doesn't do anything to you that you put on your skin, right? If you eat it, it's already a different story. If you take pills or whatever that you don't need, but something that you put on your skin, if it's a dry medicine, it doesn't do anything. And so too, they say to the woman that you should drink the water, right? The water is in front of you. You didn't do anything wrong, so drink it. It's not going to do anything to you. And for Karet, we know the Torah says that if she's innocent, the water blesses her. So it says the Gemara, and our Mishnah said that we intimidate her that she shouldn't drink it. That we try to say, that try to admit so that the Hashem's name shouldn't get erased. So it says the Gemara, a very simple answer, like Kashya. There's no question. Our Mishnah that says that we intimidate her that she shouldn't drink is before we erase Hashem's name. However, the Tosefta, which says that we intimidate her that she should drink, is the after we already erased Hashem's name. So now, if she won't drink it, it comes out that we erased Hashem's name in vain. So we want to make it, useful that we used it for the mitzvah. So we tell her that it's not going to do anything to you if you didn't do anything, and you should drink it. Okay, next. Continue the Mishnah that we say before her things that she's not deserving of hearing. So the Rabbanan taught in the Braisa we teach her words of Agadata. Of Agadata is lessons, life lessons that we learn from different things. And Agadata is called Agadata. The Gemara says because it pulls on someone's heart. Agadata comes from the word Aguda, that it pulls you like a bundle, right? That it pulls on the strings of the heart. So you tell her words of Haggadah. And you say stories that happened in the early writings of Tanakh. Kigoyim, for like it says in the pasuk in Iyov, Asher Chachamim Yagidu v'lo kichadu me'aveseim. This is one of the examples of the Agadata that they would tell the Sotah. They would say, the pasuk says in Iyov that Asher Chachamim Yagidu, that which the Chachamim, that wise men, they say, and they don't back away, they don't shy away from their ancestors. What does this mean? So the pasuk is explained to mean that Yehuda from Yaakov's son, he admitted his avera and he wasn't embarrassed. And what was his reward? What was his end? He got to go to everlasting life in Olam Haba. Reuben, who also did a sin, he admitted and he wasn't embarrassed. What was his end? He inherited the world to come. And what is the reward? Yehuda and Reuben. So Mascharan to the Gemara says, what do you mean? What was the reward? We're interrupting this brisa for a second. What do you mean? What was the reward? You just said that they got Olam Haba. So Ella Mascharan Be'elamazeh. So the Gemara says, no. What was their reward? The brisa is trying to ask, what was the reward in this world? What did Yehuda and Reuben get in this world as a reward for them admitting their sin? Lahem levadam nitna haaretz. That pasuk in Iyov finishes off that to them alone was the land given, and no stranger passed between them. And what does it mean? Lahem levadam nitna haaretz. So about Yehuda, it's referring to the monarchy. That since Yehuda admitted his sin, which we're going to learn in a second what it was, he was zeicha to the monarchy. That his descendants were the kings, the Lo Yasser Shevet Yehuda. Reuven, he was Zeicha because he admitted his sin, that Reuven was the first Shevet that got a portion in Eretz Yisrael. They settled the first on the other side of the Yarden, on the Transjordan, because of that. And the like that no stranger passed between them. Rashi says that in Parshas V'zei Bracha, the pasuk that we're gonna quote in a minute, Parshas V'zei Bracha, when Moshe Rabbeinu benched Reuven and Yehuda, they were consecutive. He benched Reuven and right away he benched Yehuda. And we're going to see that that Reuven and Yehuda's bracha were very connected. They were interconnected because of this reason. And that no other brother passed between their brachas, that it went from Reuven straight to Yehuda. Okay, so now Bishlam Yehuda. We know that by Yehuda Ashkechan Da'ida, we know that he admitted his sin. It says in the pasuk in Parshas Vayeshev, the story of Yehuda and Tamar. Yehuda had this relation with Tamar, who was a Zaina, who dressed up as a prostitute, and really he was supposed to marry her to his son Shelah after she married two of his sons and they died because of sins that they had done, and he didn't want to give her to the third son, so she dressed up as a prostitute. She enticed Yehuda. Yehuda had a relation with her, and then when he found out that she was pregnant, he knew that she was supposed to be for his third son, but he was deliberately kratzing and not giving his third son to her. And you could see Parshas Vayeshev for the details. And he finds out she was pregnant, so she said she's chayav misa because she was supposed to marry Shelah, my third son, and she was being taken out to be executed. And she sends a message to her father-in-law, a code about how really, basically a cryptic code that basically got him to realize what she was trying to say, that the babies that she was pregnant with were really his babies, and he admitted that the babies that she's pregnant with come from me. And it says in the pasuk that Vayakar Yehuda recognized the signs that she sent her, this message that she sent her, Vayomer, and he said, Sotah, she is correct. Mimeni, the prostitution, the supposed prostitution that she did is from me. So we know the story in the Torah where we have that Yehuda admitted his sin. Good. And therefore he gets all these rewards. How do we know that Reuven admitted his sin? So what was Reuven's sin? Reuven, it says in Parshas Vayishlach, that Reuven Vayishkav as Bila Pilag Hashavim, that there was a story that he moved after Rachel died, who was Yaakov's favorite wife, but not Reuven's mother. Reuven's mother was Leah, the first wife of Yaakov. Rachel was the most cherished wife of Yaakov, and after Rachel passed away, so Yaakov moved his bed into into Zilpah's tent, and into Bilhah's tent, which Bilah was the maidservant of Rachel. And Reuven felt that was a very disrespectful move against his mother Leah. So he went and he moved Yaakov Avinu's tent from Bilhah's tent to his mother Leah's tent. And Yaakov recognized that this was a very deep invasion of his own privacy, his own personal, intimate life. So this was a big sin that he did. And Reuven, this was the big sin that Reuven had committed. So how do we know that Reuven admitted a sin? We know that he did a sin, but the Torah doesn't show where he admitted a sin. So how do we know that he admitted? Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani said that Amar Rabbi Yochanan had said, "My Reuven val Yamis v'Zayis Yehuda." When Moshe Rabbeinu was benching all the Shvatim before he passed away, so the bracha, he starts with Reuven. Reuven should live and he shall not die. And then right after Reuven's bracha, he starts right away, V'zois Yehuda, and this shall be to Yehuda. And then he goes into the pasuk in Yehuda. We're going to learn, the connection of the rest of the pasuk. Shema Hashem Kol Yehuda, V'zois Yehuda, this shall be to Yehuda. Vayomer, and he said, Shema Hashem Kol Yehuda, Hashem should listen to the voice of Yehuda. Ve'al Amay Tivyenu, we should bring him into his nation. Yodav Rav Loi, his hands should be able to fight for him. Ve'ezer Mitzarav Tia, and you should be a help, a support to him against his foes. Right? So the pasuk connects Reuven and Yehuda. Reuven, it says this, V'zois, and this shall be to Yehuda. Right? So how none of the other Shvatim get that sort of introduction. And this shall be. Right? So why is this special about Yehuda and Reuven? So it says the Medrash like this: that Kol Eisam Shonim Shayu Yisrael B'Midbar. All the years that the Yidden were in the Midbar after they left Mitzrayim, Yehuda's bones were rolling in his coffin. We know that Yosef, before he passed away in Parshas Vayechi, the end of Parshas Vayechi, he makes his brothers swear that they're going to take his bones out of Mitzrayim. He says, "I'm going to be buried here. The Eibishter is going to remember you guys one day, and he's going to take you out of Mitzrayim. And when you go out of Mitzrayim, you should take my bones with you." And he says, "You should take my bones with you." If you decode that, Yosef was saying that your bones are also going to be taken out of Mitzrayim. You guys are also going to die in Mitzrayim, and you guys are going to be buried here, and you're going to take my bones together with you, with your bones. The brothers themselves weren't coming out of Mitzrayim. It was going to be their descendants many years later. So together with Yosef's bones, all the Shvatim also came out of Mitzrayim. However, and they were all full skeletons. Yehuda's bones were not connected to each other. They were all disjointed, and none of them were connected to each other. So they were rolling around his coffin. Moshe got pissed off one day. He saw that Yehuda's bones, it's so disrespectful to the great Yehuda that his bones were not connected, that they were rolling around. And so Moshe stood up, and Moshe begged for mercy from the Eibishter. Amar Lefanav, he said to the Eibishter, Ribbon Shalom, O Master of the world, Mi Garam L'Ruven Shahoida, Yehuda. Reuven over here is his coffin's also over here, and his bones are connected. How come Reuven, his bones are connected? Because he admitted his sin and he was forgiven. But who was the one that caused Reuven to sin? It was Yehuda. Since Yehuda admitted his sin, Reuven was keeping it inside of him the whole time. And once he saw that Yehuda admitted his sin, so Reuven got the courage and he admitted his sin. So Migaram li Reuven Shahoida, who caused Reuven to admit his sin? Yehuda was Yehuda. V'zois Yehuda, and this is what's happening to Yehuda, that his bones are all disconnected. Oh, and by the way, why was Yehuda's bones disconnected? Just to mention, because when Yaakov Avinu, when there was a famine in Eretz Yisrael and Yosef was the king of Mitzrayim, the brothers didn't know yet, and they needed to go get food from Yosef in Mitzrayim, and they came to Mitzrayim, and Yosef said, "Go back, and when you come back, you need to bring your brother, and don't come back unless you bring your little brother Binyamin." Yaakov didn't want to send Binyamin, and Yehuda came to his father and he said, Send the boy with me, let's go. If not for us kratzing over here, we could have came back already 2 times. They were very hungry, they needed food. And he says, I'm going to be the guarantor. If he doesn't come back, you're going to ask me. You're going to ask me where this boy is. If I don't bring Binyamin back to you, then I will have sinned before my father forever. And meaning he was placing himself in a ban, in a cherem, even in Olam Haba, forever and ever. And when a tzaddik makes a cherem, even if it's conditional, it's always fulfilled, even if it's conditional and the condition wasn't met. Right? He said that I'm going to be in a cherem if Binyamin doesn't come back. Binyamin did come back, but still the cherem went into effect, and that's why Yehuda's bones were all disconnected. But Moshe Rabbeinu was like, enough is enough. Reuven is full because of Yehuda, so therefore Yehuda should for sure be full. And he said, this is what's happening to Yehuda. So miyad, Moshe said, right away, Shema Hashem Pil Yehuda, oh Eibishter, listen to the voice of Yehuda. So all Evrei l'shafa, all of his limbs went back to their joints, and his skeleton got reconnected. However, Yehuda was still not allowed to enter the heavenly Beis Medrash. So Moshe saw that was going on, and Moshe said, and to his nation you should bring him in. So they brought him into the Mesivta Dirkiya, to the heavenly Beis Medrash. However, the Rabbanan who over there were talking Torah in the heavenly Beis Medrash, Yehuda wasn't able to follow the conversation. There was Shakovataria, there was questions and answers, there was discussing halachas. Yehuda wasn't able to follow the conversation. And he felt bad that he wasn't able to understand the Torah that they were learning. So said Moshe, Yodav Ravloi, that his hands should be able to fight for himself. So he was able to understand. Then the halacha was still never accepted like Yehuda's opinion. Yehuda was now able to come into the halachic discussions, but the halacha was never decided together with him. So Moshe saw that, and Moshe said, that you, Eibishter, should be a help from his enemies, from his opposers, and therefore the halacha started to be decided also like Yehuda. Okay, good. So now says the Gemara Bishlam, it makes sense why Yehuda admitted his sin. Because if Yehuda would have never admitted his sins, Tamar, right, his daughter-in-law, together with the 2 babies that were in her belly, right, her twins, Peretz and Zerach, they would have all been killed. They would have been burnt, like Yehuda had said. So he had to admit his sin, and he saved Tamar's life together with the twins. Ella Reuben, however, why would he admit his sin? Rav Sheshes said that Chotzef alai bar Yisrael the mafrit chatoi, it's chutzpah upon me when I see a Jewish person that goes around and says all of his sins that he did, because it's sort of a brazen thing to do. A person sinned, so you work on it. You have to admit your sins to the Eibishter, but you don't go around saying your sins to everyone, because first of all, it can encourage other people to follow and to do those sins. And also it shows that you don't care about it, that you're not embarrassed about it. So Rav Shesha said that this is a negative thing. So if it wasn't hurting anyone, why did he have to admit his sin? So it says the Gemara, the reason why Reuben also had to admit his sin is in order that Yaakov Avinu should not suspect his brothers of committing this sin of moving his bed. Since he didn't want Yaakov to suspect the wrong person, Reuben admitted that it was me, so Yaakov knew that that it was Reuben who did it. And just the halacha is the Rambam paskins that when it comes to a mitzvah that's bein adam lachaveroi, one man to his fellow person should admit his sins in public and show that I used to be a dishonest person, and now I've changed my ways. And no one's going to learn from that to be a mean person. Hashenkin ben adam la'malkim, a person should keep it to himself, and you have to do tshuva. You have to admit your sins to get rid of the goof of the avera, like Chassidus explains. But yeah, everyone should have a good tevoch, have a gesunden Zummer, and yeah, we're going to continue tomorrow with Daf Tes.